What if everything that you believed in life is just a reflection of one single thought? Once you understand this, your entire reality will begin to look different. My name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant, PhD and ordained minister of metaphysical sciences, which is the study of spirituality. I am also the author of The Enlightened Shadow and Spiritual, Not Religious, which is both available on Amazon and Audible. The power of a single thought. We tend to recognize the power of thoughts. We tend to understand the idea that thoughts become things, but we don't really get into the importance of recognizing what is the one thought that actually fuels, that actually is the foundation for everything, especially when you're on the journey of creating and manifestation and spirituality and coming into connection with yourself, a deeper connection with the universe and all people and all things. There is a singular thought that will in fact support you in this reality that you are seeking to experience. One single thought has the power to shape essentially how you see the world. You're currently functioning in a thought, but is that thought actually aligned with who you truly are? Does that thought actually align with your consciousness, with the divine spark that is within you? That thought is a thought of really recognizing the power of who you are, understanding what you are. Most times people have a thought that is grounded in a belief that is passed down to you, that is given to you, a belief based on maybe a past traumatic experience, something that happened to you or happened to a friend, a loved one, that you just came to some kind of conclusion that this is what life is about. And usually that relates to circumstance. Maybe you grew up in a bad environment, a bad neighborhood, a toxic, dysfunctional family. Maybe you went through a bad relationship where your partner, your person, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife did something horrific to you. And thus that was so traumatic that it defined your reality. It created a model, a affirmation that really isn't grounded on truth, but grounded on hurt, grounded on pain, which we really understand on the spiritual journey is a byproduct of the ego, which is false, which is a fake self, a false version of yourself. Therefore, everything that happens based on the ego is also false. Reality doesn't exist outside of your perception. So you must understand that your perception is the groundwork for everything that you experience. And so when you recognize that your current way of thought, your current belief system, when you recognize that that isn't something that you have to keep, that is something that was given to you because you had the lack of ability to actually create your own thought, create your own understanding, create your own rule, create your own theory or concept of life. Now that you're on this journey of spirituality, you're recognizing that something is off, something is different. That is your awareness, being able to observe and witness the fact that something that you are believing in doesn't align with something that you are actually finding truth in. That there's a truth that is trying to come out of you. And it doesn't align with the belief system. So you're feeling that there's a conflict within yourself. But ultimately, what it means is that you're awakening. You're awakening to this understanding, to the fact that reality, right? Reality is essentially created by your consciousness. And your consciousness is constantly trying to tell you that, is trying to communicate that to you. You're not seeing reality, but in actuality, you're seeing a reflection. Reality isn't separate from you. Some people think that there is only one truth that we all share. That is false. There is a truth by which you interpret what we all share. That is your consciousness being able to perceive, to analyze, to critique, to interpret, to add meaning, to add, some kind of purpose behind what it is that you're experiencing. That's the key. The key is to recognize that what you call reality is ultimately a projection of what you believe and what you focus on. And so the one single thought has to be grounded in a deep understanding of a spiritual truth, not a truth that was given to you, not a truth that was based on fear, that was based on pain, but in actuality, a truth that is so fundamental that once we all come to this realization, we then recognize that we can create any reality that we want. It's a truth that is so profound that even when you are aware of it or not, it still works in creating your reality. The difference is when you know you're creating your reality, it gives you the power to create the reality that you want. When you don't know you're creating your reality, you don't know. So therefore, reality seems to be something that is separate from you, something that seems to be out of your hands. You are not reacting to life. You're simply reacting to your interpretation of it. The issue is, the beauty is that you get to decide what that interpretation says, what it is. Two people can live the same moment, right? They can experience the same event, but they will completely experience it differently. Why is that? Because their consciousness is not the same. Who they are not the same. So when we think about this idea that there is only one truth, we recognize that if you put a group of people in a room, they can converse with one another and they can have certain fundamental, ideas or fundamental things that they can say, yes, this person did wear a blue shirt. This person did have a blue light behind them. But what I heard, the message that I received, was something completely different than what the other person received. Because there is something different that's happening from your point of view than from their point of view. So you have to recognize that your consciousness is actually the base, is actually the foundation of the experience. The shift happens when you see yourself as the source of all things that you're experiencing. That is the thought. That is the key. That is the thing that you must recognize. When you recognize that you are the source of all things that you are witnessing, that you are creating, that's happening, that's not happening, it shifts everything. The possibilities become infinite. So you have to flip your mindset. You're not the victim of reality. You're actually the creator of it. So when you own this, you gain control over yourself, over your life, even over your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. You may say, well, how do I gain control over my relationships? That is another person. I can't control that person. You're right. But you can control how you show up in that relationship. You can control how you communicate with that person, how you hear that person, how you relate to that person. You can control what your needs are when it comes to the dynamic of that relationship. You can take the lead in what your desires are, what your needs are, what it is that you're looking to create and experience in that moment with that person. That has a great impact on what that person does. If you're, say, having a discussion with a person and it escalates into a debate, into an argument, into even a fight, guess what? You have the ability to de-escalate that situation. You have the ability to communicate with that person from a place of empathy, from a place of love, compassion. And then they can then respond to that vibration and that frequency. So you have to recognize your power. You have the ability to essentially control everything that you interact with, that you experience, that you engage with, that you see. And once you recognize this, you see that it is all starting all starting from inward out. That is when you begin to understand that you are more than your thoughts, more than your emotions, more than your feelings, more than your beliefs. When you recognize that you are more than all those things, then it allows you to see the power of this thing we call consciousness, right? It allows you to recognize and realize that you are not those things. You are just simply the observer of those things. You are not life, right? Your life isn't you. You are just simply observing life. And with that ability to observe life gives you the ability to choose. Once you recognize that you are the observer of this life, you recognize that you are the projector of life, that life is an expression of you, a reflection of you. And so you recognize that you are the source. And then that's when everything changes, you see? And so you have to start recognizing this and seeing that when you practice being, right, in the awareness, the mindfulness that you are the source, then you start to really understand the importance of, asking yourself questions, right? So instead of saying things like, why is this happening to me, right? Whatever you're facing, challenges or difficult situations, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? The best question is to ask yourself is, what belief is this showing me? And is this belief actually in alignment with what it is that I desire? You see, because most times they are two different things, and they shouldn't be. They should be aligned. Your beliefs are the echoes of your consciousness communicating to you and trying to get you along the right path, to try to make you see how and what direction in which you are to align, to make you understand the frequency that you are supposed to be on. That is why you have desires, dreams, aspirations. They are to lead you to the right direction, lead you in the right path of awakening, enlightenment, joy, fulfillment, bliss, success, whatever that looks like to you. And so when you think about all of life and all that is happening, you're recognizing, okay, that if you are the source, then the question is, what beliefs are showing up in front of me? Because you are a projector, right? You are projecting life. And all of your life is a manifestation, is a byproduct of what is going on within, because you are the source. So when you do that and you are dealing with difficulty, challenges, you have to ask yourself and you have to address them and say, okay, what belief is this showing me? Based on how you're responding, based on how you're feeling, based on what you're doing. Sometimes difficult, uncomfortable, not ideal things happen, but then you have to really question how you're responding to it. What is it doing to you? Is it doing anything to you at all? Is it aligning with who you desire yourself to be, who you know yourself to truly be? Right? So practice things like affirmations on a daily basis. A good affirmation: I am the source of my reality. That says it all. When you recognize that and you say it out loud over and over and over again, even if you say it in your mind, it creates a space. It creates a vibration. Okay. You begin to emanate power. You begin to own everything that's happening. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially in the beginning, because you feel like everything is on top of you. But it's not that way. It's actually the other way around, where everything is beneath you, lifting you up. Because now you recognize that the challenges that's happening, the difficulty of life, is actually there to remind you of something that you've forgotten. And that something is that you are the source. So meditate, observe your thoughts, and observe those thoughts without judgment. Because remember, you are the observer. You are the observer of not only life and everything that you are experiencing, but you are the observer of what's going on within your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your belief systems. When you observe those things, especially without judgment, you really recognize the truth about you being the source, because the source is able to understand that there is a separation of what you are feeling, experiencing, thinking, and who you truly are, what you truly are. So make sure you take time to practice these basic things. If you're somebody who is a writer and likes to write, practice journaling. It's something that I personally have been taking on, and I find it quite fulfilling. I don't do it every day, but when I do, I have a moment, I take 5 minutes, maybe even less, and I just simply write down random thoughts, how I felt today, what it is that I desire, my experiences, just random things, whatever's coming to you at the moment, write those things down. That allows you to free your mind up. Okay. It's good to track moments when your perception shifts, even your emotional state, because that allows you to gain freedom, to gain power. So it's important that when you are creating this new understanding, that you essentially create reality, right? Your new reality begins. And it begins from a place of recognizing this core understanding that reality isn't out there. It's in here. It's in you. So though we're talking in terms of reality being a reflection, you being a projector, the bottom line is it's all one. But you are the core. You are the root. You are the seed. You are the thing that is emanating, radiating, vibrating out. Okay? And the universe is simply layers of you responding to what it is that you're putting out there. So I want you to really take time to start seeing life as a feedback of your consciousness. Recognize that it is essentially a form of communication between yourself and yourself. You see? So the question is, what will you choose to believe now? Will you continue to choose to believe thoughts and ideas that no longer served you? Or will you choose to believe the truth that you are the source of your reality, of all of your experiences? Therefore, you can literally create any experience that you desire. But you first must take ownership of this single thought. So I invite you to say in the comments below, I am the source of my reality. I am the source of my reality. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, get access to this free ebook, and so much more. Continue to join me on this